JD.
Howdy.
And once again, no Farmer. I just want to point out, at this point, I feel like for this season, Farmer missed more episodes than he recorded.
Is that true? I feel like
I don't
it's
know.
got to be close.
That's what I feel like.
mean, yeah. You know what?
I feel like he's not been here in forever.
I wouldn't even contest that. I would say, yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just wild. Oh, and did I say in the back we got Craig? What's up, Craig? Thank you. So I want to start off with a couple of things here, D. One, it is the last episode of the season. Yeah.
For a second, I thought you were going to say last episode of the show.
Oh, no. Of the season. Of this season, what season is it? Is it season 7? Are we doing right now?
Season 7. Yes. Yeah.
You know what? The final episode of season 7 really, it's a very biblical number. It would be a great ending for the season. Or for the season, for the show. And with it being the last episode, I think it's time to announce, that it's the end of an era. Especially, Farmer has not been able to make it to the podcast as much, despite us changing times to be more accessible for him. Right? Like, we literally went to the time that he said. I wonder if we went back to the old time, if he'd have an easier time making it, honestly.
I mean, it doesn't seem like there was much reason to change, really, when it came down to it. And I know we've said oh, sure, it works better for us, but I mean, I don't know. It's just
so the only thing is that the release date is closer, so we're a little more topical, which is nice, right? We're not a whole week late. But with Farmer not being able to make it as much, I think it's time to announce that we've got someone retiring from the podcast.
That's kind of huge changes coming.
It's a huge change if you think about it. It's if we're at the end of this of season 7, that's 70 episodes. And
we've got the core cast, and we've been the core cast for the all 7 seasons. But
yeah, we've had a few guests, but through it all, we've been doing this for a while. Has it been 2 years now, or a year and a half? We started 2 years ago. But yeah, with all that, guys, for those listening, say goodbye to Craig. Craig, thank you so much. Craig is moving on from the podcast. There's some opportunities have come up, and Craig feels like he's outgrown our unpaid internship position. So Craig's cousin, G-Arc, from season 8 forward, is going to be manning the booth, and Craig's going to stretch his wings and see if he can fly.
Always hard to let someone go, but it's always exciting to watch them soar like Icarus into the sky.
Really, and if you think about it, in all the songs, what do they say? If you love them, let them go. Right?
Yeah, true.
And, Craig, we've spent many, many hours together, and, I don't know if I want to say I love you. It is a little weird, but I don't even know if that's allowed with you being our intern and all for me to say that I love you. But I am ready to let you go, and I wish you the best. Is there anything you want to say, Craig? All right. Well, I think we've taken enough time. The end of an era of a Navcast where Craig is no longer sitting back there in the booth. Did anything interesting happen last week, D? Anything at all?
There was a lot of news, that's for sure.
There is a lot to talk about, for sure. Would you like to start us off?
Sure. So, I've been trying to essentially do live reacts to all Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox's things. specifically, and sometimes like the other stuff too that crops up, but that all depends on how interested I am in it and also how long it is. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, there was a state of play on June 4th, uh,
Honestly, I
which
didn't even know it was happening. I
I didn't
really, I
either.
didn't even
I
know it
didn't
was happening.
either. And a lot of people didn't necessarily seem too thrilled with it. But I think also that's a misunderstanding. Like, so this is
Are you
E3
serious? I
season,
didn't hear
right?
that.
Like,
Really?
this
There
is
are people
like,
who aren't happy with it, with what they announced?
well, like, this is like the E3 season, right? And back in the day, PlayStation used to come fairly strong with a showcase, right? Uh, for many years in a row. And so there's kind of an expectation of like having an event around this time that you bring some hype and you bring some major announcements. And the fact is that when it comes to Sony, we don't know a whole lot of what their studios are up to. We know Intergalactic by Naughty Dog is being worked on. We know Ghost of Yotai, right? Am I pronouncing
Yote,
that correct?
Ghost of Yote, I
Yote.
think it is.
Okay, yeah. We know that's being worked on by Sucker Punch. Uh, that's all cool, but like, and theoretically, we've heard like rumors of another God of War game, but I mean, like, they really have been really quiet, and there's also been a ton of shakeups behind the scenes. So I mean, like, one would think that if they're going to drop like an event in the E3 like zone, that it would, like, kind of allay people's concerns, maybe. You know, I mean, they just had a leadership change not that long ago. They had the Concord disaster, and now Marathon looks like it might be DOA. I mean,
Are you
there's
serious? A
uh,
Bungie game being DOA? What?
there's
Maybe if they hadn't. I'm not even gonna say if they hadn't nerfed my helmet. Maybe if they hadn't completely destroyed their goodwill
well,
with
and
their
continue to do
fans.
so too. Like, the problem with Marathon apparently is that like there's some straight up art theft involved, and like I've looked at a lot of the accusations, and like some of it is literally 1-to-1, like ripoffs. Like, I'm not one to like really hound on style because I think everything like kind of like builds off.
Everything is
Like,
iterative, right? There's nothing
yeah,
truly original, right? Yeah, I feel
right.
you. Yeah.
Uh, I think it's really hard to be original, at least when it comes down to like uh building in a particular style. But like literally, they have like this person's logo in some of their assets. And like they've claimed that those are placeholder assets, but like, I mean, they've claimed that now, I mean, like, who knows what,
Right,
but
right.
yeah. So I mean, like, there was a whole thing with that a few weeks ago. Uh and then just, yeah, like, then the Marathon alpha, that closed alpha that then became open, uh happened at the same time as another game's technical test, and they're
Hmm.
both extraction shooters, and that was like the worst possible thing because Marathon looked way worse than the other extraction shooter. So I mean, like, uh like, people just had a lot more fun playing the other one. So I mean, like, we'll see. And then they're coming out allegedly at similar times too. So I mean, like, because we just got the date for the other one, Arc Raiders, which I think actually
Right, which
even a member of an
Tuna
AV
was
played.
streaming that
Yeah,
one. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I
and
remember that.
enjoyed. Yeah, and so like that one comes out in October, and Marathon is due in September because that's like usually where Bungie drops its games. Uh, but like, we'll see. Like, I mean, like, yeah, doesn't look great for Marathon when it comes down to it. But then this is also like the third or fourth project in a row under Sony's helm that's been like a multiplayer project. They've had to like essentially either scale back or like might fail, you know? I mean, on arrival. Between Concord, between the Last of Us multiplayer game that they canceled, between like a couple other live service things that they like canceled before announcing. I mean, yeah, it's just not looking great for Sony lately. So they do this state of play, and like this state of play is very much in line with their other state of plays, which means like no huge announcements. Like it's just kind of like a Nintendo Direct, you know, or like an Xbox, like not a showcase, but like in like just an event of like, hey, this is kind of all the, you know, some games coming up in the near future or whatever. Except the state of play mostly consists of games coming next year. So, like, yeah, people weren't too thrilled with it. I watched it. I thought actually it was one of their better state of plays when it came down to it. But I think I also have a pretty good, like, expectation set for what those state of plays are. And I'm not expecting anything, like, breathtaking, you know? So.
Well, it's interesting for you to just be completely wrong, D. 100% wrong, because there was a huge announcement that they made at the state of play that I'm like actually excited about.
Final
something
Fantasy
that
Tactics.
I've talked about on this podcast. Wasn't it last week? 2 weeks ago? I was like, I can't play Final Fantasy Tactics on Steam or anywhere. Guess what? Guys? They did it again. They're remastering an old game, and here I am, and I'm like, take my money. I want it. I want to play it on my Steam Deck. So one, it's not just a remaster, right? So it's Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles, and they are doing a original version, which is like just the original version ported, and then like the War of the Lions version. And then they are doing one with updated UI, some new voice acting, some stuff like that.
Fully
it sounds
voiced.
like they're actually...
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
Fully voiced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it wasn't before at all.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm super excited. I actually, before I was this year, I didn't do really any video game covers. I was mostly doing original music, and this year I started doing video game covers. One of the games that was on my list to possibly do covers from was Final Fantasy Tactics. And I thought it was too niche and there wasn't enough people, behind it. So I didn't end up doing it. But now, they have a September 30th release date. I'm putting together a lo-fi album of Final Fantasy Tactics music. Like this, I'm legitimately super pumped. It's so funny that I use that as an example even for pirating. Look, guys, if hey, don't just wait, okay? Maybe they'll give you an option to buy it. I'm so pumped. I'm pumped.
Like, the fact is too, like, I was talking with someone else and they said that the only way they think that you could play it is maybe on a PS3. You could play like the PS1 version or whatever, the PSX version, through like Back Combat or whatever. But for some reason, that's not like at all ported beyond the actual PS3, and so like it would be impossible to play any other way. And so like that's really cool, especially since like a lot of people talk very fondly of Final Fantasy Tactics, and looking at it, it looks great. It does. Like, I mean, the remastered version and everything, like it looks really good.
Awesome. And it's so I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped for it. So like in that sense, like state of play, that's all they needed, Great. Fantastic. I'm happy. I'm going to shift over to the Xbox showcase because it happened. It finally happened. We're getting Final Fantasy on the Xbox.
I swear, like I very rarely use the term gaslighting, but I feel like Square Enix has been gaslighting me for like 5 years now, with like continuing to not put Remake on the Xbox, and so finally they do.
They did. It was, for those who don't remember, when they first announced Final Fantasy Remake, how many years ago was that? When was the first announcement? Do you know?
I don't know.
Remake.
And the thing is, too, they scrubbed that trailer. I cannot find that trailer at all. and I know it existed.
They made
because I'm not the only one who saw it. Like, I mean,
no, we talked about it.
Yeah.
We talked about it. It was in 2015. 10 years ago, they had an announcement trailer, and in the announcement trailer, there was an Xbox logo. It was like PlayStation, Xbox, and I was so pumped because honestly, I mean, D, I think you remember this. What kept me from buying an Xbox was I was a huge Final Fantasy fan
Right.
back in the day. And I was like, Final Fantasy is only on PlayStation. I can't move over to Xbox because as much as I like to play Halo, you know, I want to be able to play Final Fantasy. And Final Fantasy 13 moved over. And I was pretty pumped about that. So that was my first Xbox 360 was the Final Fantasy 13 edition, right?
Yeah.
And I played Final Fantasy VII Remake on my Steam Deck. It actually ran pretty well. I wonder if the next one, what's it called? Like reintegrate or something? Not reintegrate. The next Rebirth, that's the one. Yeah, Rebirth. Yeah. I wonder if that one will run worse because it's just a newer game, you know? We'll see. But man, like it's finally coming out on Xbox D after 10 years. It turned out we were right. Wild. We called it.
Yeah.
When did that game even come out? How many years was it like at this point, you know what I mean? Like what's the exclusive rate at this point?
That's the crazy thing too. Like I mean like the fact that it wasn't a 1 year like exclusivity period. That it was like 5, I think. Has it been 5 already?
It was 2020.
Yeah. That's a really long time to like just randomly like kind of arbitrarily, and I guess Sony paid for it, you know, but still like that's a really long time. At that point, like I don't know, like you would almost wonder like why bother, you know, putting it on the other console. But
I mean, why bother? But any Xbox diehards are gonna buy it on Xbox, right?
I love that Phil has been particularly bullish on like, you know, like getting certain games to come over, so that Xbox isn't like a, you know, essentially like a second place console, you know, that like
right.
I mean, obviously we're never going to get like the PlayStation exclusives, you know, but at the very least, like a lot of these other third-party developers should be putting in them on both, especially when it doesn't necessarily take that much more effort.
Right.
And I mean, like that helps like Xbox players feel like, you know, more justified in their purchase, which I think is very important right now, as Xbox kind of takes away the reasons to,
Well, in the shifting,
be so invested.
We called it a year ago. We called it the Microsoft Series M is out, or it's not out, but it's coming out this year.
Nope. This is the ROG Ally. This is a completely different thing.
But they delayed. It's not totally a different thing. It is an official Microsoft handheld.
It's not a Microsoft handheld though.
Okay. What are you going to call it, dude? What are you going to call it? Let's get some info on it.
No, this is literally it's just an Asus ROG Ally with Xbox UX basically. So, like, the Xbox handheld is still in the works behind the scenes, but this is not Xbox hardware. This is.
Are you going to stand behind what you just said?
Yeah.
Okay, because the name of the product is the ROG Xbox Ally.
Right.
So it is a completely Microsoft branded device.
It's Xbox branded, yes, yeah.
So it's a Microsoft device. It is a Microsoft handheld device. While it is being manufactured by another company, whatever. But it is a Microsoft handheld. You can't say it's not. No, it's just a ROG Ally. It has Xbox in the name.
But that isn't Series M. Series M is the rumor that they were doing their own internal hardware, which is still true.
This is why
as far as we know.
This is why I'm going to say it. We talked about it. We talked about how awesome it would be. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that starting off with this half-baked handheld in the current market, it doesn't actually natively like run Xbox games, right? Like that way and such. I think people aren't gonna buy into it, and Microsoft is gonna take that there's not interest in the device, and they're just gonna
That's my
scrap
one
it.
concern.
They'll
with
do
it.
whatever. That's what I really think that's gonna happen. I really do, because like it is cool. It seems cool, but also the price point of it is super expensive. Like, what is it? Like, it's up to like $1,000
Did
for
they
the
announce the price
Series
point
X
for
one.
it?
I mean, that's what it said.
I mean, I could expect the
No, it's not
X1
official.
to
It's
be
all
1,000,
speculation.
but
It's still
yeah,
speculation. Yeah,
like
but they're expecting it to be $700 to $1,000.
yeah, which I
That's
think
pretty
actually.
expensive.
Well, I mean, and the ROG Ally starts at I think 600, give or take, and then the Ally X is like 800 or 900. So like
And I
that
know
kind of
that it's
makes sense.
different. I know that it's different, but people just lost their minds that the Switch 2 was $450.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, sure, it's a Switch and such. I get it, but it's a lot of money. I think a lot of people have the attitude we talked about, where it's like, I'm just gonna wait for like the first party one. I'm just gonna wait
Yeah.
for like the Microsoft one, and then people aren't gonna support it, and then it's not gonna get supported. And they like we talked about, they delayed development, but that can mean kind of anything, right? Like, because they're just focusing in on like the UI for this ROG Ally one, or like the Microsoft handheld.
Right.
But like, if it doesn't
Which
do well, why would they make a first party one? Why they're just like, well, we have this one and that's going to be good enough. It didn't do well.
Or they could partner with other like hardware manufacturers, like Microsoft
Right.
has shown like a willingness and like even like a preference to do, as opposed to making their own hardware.
In a way of you
which-
saying Marathon was dead like DOA, I kind of feel like this is DOA. Not trying to make a comment about how good the device is, but just the way this thing is and the way that they like announced it and stuff. I just don't see it. Right? Why would you try and sell a product when you're like, oh, we're working on a first party, maybe better one soon? You know?
Well,
Like, to
and I
me,
think
it
that's
just
why
screams wait.
I think that's why they haven't announced the first party one yet. Normally, you know, they've just like
Sure
nodded at it. Like, I mean, but like, yeah, like I don't know. Like, on one hand, you have to get the UX right, because honestly, the Xbox UX needs to be kind of perfect for it to like play in this game of the handheld market.
Right.
Like, I mean, like when it comes down to it, Steam is a very, very like difficult like competitor to like beat in that market when they do have that, right? They do have a UI that essentially just works and feels natural and feels ubiquitous across like, you know, all Steam devices or whatever. Like, I think Xbox UX needs a lot of work to get to a point where it's comparable even to Steam. But like, from what I'm like, there's a few people who have had hands-on, and from what little I've seen, I haven't done a deep dive yet, like they seem to like it. But again, that price point is going to mean a lot too about like how many people support it. So yeah, and again, like we talk about this all the time of people taking the wrong lessons from things, and my worry is that this isn't just a test for like seeing like how the UX works in the wild, but also like what's the taste for it. And like, if that's the case, like they're going to be very disappointed when people won't buy like a $700 to $900 device or $1,000 device. You know, I mean, like, yeah. Now, it is interesting 100%. That they have 2 SKUs. Like, that's kind of interesting. I was not expecting that. I was expecting this to essentially just be like the ROG Ally X with like just the one SKU at like a super high price point of like $900,000. To have that lower one helps a little bit maybe, but like also like people aren't buying as much right now. Like, I mean, it's just, yeah, we'll see. But in an ideal world, this would be a great like first place to kind of get their UI settled and get it running well. so that way when they enter the market a few years later, like they're ready to go. But
Right.
like the problem
Which
is, like
I
you
do
said,
think
like
is a good strategy. I think that's a great strategy, actually. But
yeah,
I just have a hard time imagining it not doing well and like the higher ups being like, yeah, let's keep sinking money into the development of this device.
right.
Like
Which is
it's
a
just
shame
hard to
because
believe it.
like Xbox, like not just Xbox, Microsoft makes good hardware when they try. They just
Right.
never actually stick with it long enough to like see any kind of like lasting market, because it's so hard to gain market share in those areas when it's already flooded. So I mean,
But
like,
it's also a really interesting difference to look at, though. Microsoft at its core is a software company, right?
right,
As
yeah,
opposed to like something like Apple, right? How strange was it that Apple software, Apple TV, ended up on everything, right?
right,
Because
yeah,
Apple at its heart is a hardware company. Like, and they like to make hardware for stuff and sell you an actual thing, which they've shifted some, right? And they have all of these, digital things now that they, like iCloud and, Apple One and all of that kind of stuff. But still at its core, they're trying to sell you a physical device, right? But if you think about like, oh, do you have a Windows or do you have a Mac? None of those windows are like Microsoft, unless you're doing a Surface, I suppose. Right. But like in
right.
general, like it's another hardware provider that is uh that you go with. Which is a huge
But
shame because
yeah,
to backpedal here on me just like immediately hating on this thing, it's a huge shame because to be 100% honest, I want a first party Microsoft handheld that I can use. That's the dream for me,
right,
right?
yep,
That's it. Like that's the dream. Microsoft handheld, maybe Switch 2, maybe by the time the Steam Deck wears out, I won't even replace it. And I'll just use the Microsoft one because then I have, it's like the Apple ecosystem. I've got my games across all my devices. I don't have to play it on the cloud if I don't have to. It runs it. That's huge,
well,
right?
to be fair, this thing does allow you to install stuff,
Right, right.
which is good. And I think like judging from like the little bit that they've shown of the UI and everything, like it isn't like, like my ROG Ally is basically a desktop mode machine, right? Where I have to install
Right.
all the launchers and everything, and then yes, there's an app that can like collect like all the games from those launchers, but then it still has to open them up or whatever. This looks way more intuitive, but I mean, like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I mean, like that's still not exactly what I want. Like, I still want a first party device that's like intricately and completely linked, And
You
yeah,
want the Xbox Switch,
yeah,
right? But then it's just the gamepad, right? Like it's like it doesn't need to plug into the TV. That's my like no, 100%. And so I actually want this device. I want to say that I want that device. And because I know that this device isn't necessarily that, it's a step toward it. But being
right.
someone who already has a handheld, and like with how much it could possibly cost, man, I don't know. I think that even if it's on the lower end of $700, that's
That's still a
like
lot. Yeah,
almost double the Switch,
right.
right? At that point. And it's like that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
That's a lot of money for a non-first party handheld, you know?
it's
And
just
so
and
I
man,
don't know.
like it's so like it's impossible for me to justify because I have a ROG Ally. So there's no
Right?
way that I can justify getting this.
You could
Like, there's no
you could
way.
always
Like,
sell your ROG Ally used and then get one,
yeah.
That's I mean that's an option. But here's the thing. How different is it really going to be than a ROG Ally? Because it's also from what I understand it's not actually running Xbox, right?
So there's some questions about that. It's like we're not sure what necessarily the Xbox app is going to be like capable of, like in terms of like your Xbox library yet.
Right. That's what I mean. Like
Theoretically,
it's not
yeah. Like,
cuz if it's just basically Windows Xbox, you know what I mean? Like the games that go across and you could play on Windows too. then it's definitely not worth doing, because it's your ROG Ally is basically the same thing.
Right. Like, I mean, this has that, essentially, from what I can tell, this has that console-inspired UI that Xbox helped create for it. And that's the main difference. Like, otherwise, it's essentially just a ROG Ally that, like, has that, like, it's not just an app, it's like a whole UI, like, skin, you know?
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I want for my ROG Ally, to be clear. Like, that would be really cool, because my ROG Ally does not have that. And I'm sure there's some third-party stuff that exists, but, like,
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of looking and haven't found anything I'm satisfied with. So that sounds fantastic. But, I mean, like, not fantastic enough for me to, like, you know, just up and buy one when I have a ROG Ally. And then also, like, the question is, like, so there's been little things that have been popping up, like your console library, kind of like there's been bugs where like some console games have been showing up on the Xbox PC app.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? You know, like, does that
Right.
mean that like essentially that they're working on getting all console games like to be transferable if you have a controller? Because that would be really cool. Does this like skin, this UI, like allow you to play console games? Because like most of my library on Xbox is console, you know?
You didn't you have a ROG Ally and you got like the one step up, like the white one, right?
Right.
Not
Yeah.
like the baseline Ally. Is there a hardware difference between the Xbox ROG Ally and your Ally? Because
It doesn't really seem like it, but I mean, like, they also, I don't see any specs necessarily either.
well, that'll
Like,
be an interesting thing to watch
yeah.
for, because then if the only difference is a UI, it's
But
literally
like,
and like, you know, your specs are the same. Why couldn't you get the software, right? It turns into that
well,
argument of like it's just a skin.
and that's my question too, is like putting the software on here kind of a test to like get like some of the bugs sorted out, and then they release that software as a downloadable thing for like whatever device you have? Because that would be cool too. Like, if the Xbox app becomes essentially like a UI skin that you could put on whatever device, that would be pretty neat.
That would be cool. I
Yeah.
agree. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just interesting when you get into these things, right? So like my question, like if it's just software, why can't it run? This is not the same discussion, by the way. I want to clarify for people listening that why can't the Switch 1 just get the software thing from the Switch 2? It's because the Switch 1 sucks. That's why. That's it, guys.
Yes.
The Switch 1 sucks. And it was old when it came out. It was outdated when it came out like 7 years ago. That's why it can't just do it.
It was like literally a generation and a half behind, like when it came out. Yeah.
If it actually is the same, but then it's actually a valid conversation of like, well, I have an Ally. It's just not the Xbox branded one. Why can't I run this? Right?
Because I would even be willing to pay money for like whatever software they're running, if it's like literally like similar specs. And the way that they're branding it too, with ROG Xbox Ally X and ROG Xbox Ally, that's literally how they brand the Ally, is ROG Ally X and ROG Ally, you know? So that makes me think that it'll be like very similar specs wise, you know? That it's essentially just Xbox branded. But yeah, I don't know. I'm very, very curious about, like, I have lots of questions in terms of like what's under the hood and how it runs and whether it'll be ever like available separate.
Well, and Xbox
from the
seems to be shifting, right? From because that may be the thing too. What if they just make a really sweet app and you just run the app on whatever device you have instead of committing to making hardware and trying to move that hardware, right? Like, I do understand that maybe they don't feel like they can move the hardware, because when you're in the hardware game, so like Steam, right, is in the software game, but they also have hardware. They have the Steam Deck. There isn't really a huge loss for letting other people have software on your hardware, right? Because it gives your hardware more value. Oh, if you buy the Steam Deck, you could have, you know, there's the Steam store. There's also the Xbox app on it, which allows you to play your Xbox games that are compatible. You know what I mean? Like something like that. like, or with the ROG Ally, right? Like, oh yeah, you don't have the Xbox branded one, but if you download, if it's free or paid, the Xbox app, now you have access to all that stuff. It adds value to your device. So I'm interested to see if Microsoft can get into that. But then what people would talk about is they would be like, oh man, like I'm scared of like, you know, Microsoft is just going to end up being an app and no longer have hardware, kind of a deal.
Well, and the problem is, like, when they are actually pretty competent at hardware, like, even with a smaller market share, like, they can still induce change in those markets and, like, help improve them. And we've seen this with Xbox and PlayStation, where Xbox has, like, I mean, they had a really good 360 run, but by and large, they've been in a pretty distant third place. But they've continued to, like, force PlayStation and even Nintendo a little bit to make changes, like, in terms of, like, being, like, more consumer friendly or more intuitive, or like having friends list, or even you could make the argument that Xbox Live kind of inspired PSN or whatever, or at least this like current iteration of it, you know? Like there's a lot of different things that like competition brings about that's actually really good for consumers that Xbox and Microsoft in general like has helped like induce. But like if they're completely out of like the hardware game, then like essentially you have way less of a push to do.
Yeah, and that's not ideal. Right. I agree, because that's just like going to be worse for the consumer.
Yeah. Because like I mean like what if Xbox hardware goes away, for instance, which is what everybody's freaked out about, like what is the incentive for PlayStation to ever do anything different then? You know? Like I mean, there isn't one. There really isn't. And that
I think some people would make the argument that Xbox still doesn't give them much of an incentive, right? Like some like as far as the split goes. But
I mean, sure, but I don't think PlayStation ever would have put their games on PC. I don't think they ever would have tried that without Xbox doing it first. You know,
it's true, and people like calling for it, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
or like crossplay and all that. You know, like one of the things that Xbox announced during their showcase, every single game shown will include Xbox Play Anywhere, which what that means is you buy it one place, you can play it at any of the places, like using their app or whatever, and you also like have cross progression and cross save and all that, and like usually cross play too. So I mean, like that's a really cool thing that's like highly underrated, but it means you only have to buy it once, and that's a really like neat thing that like only they do. And I wonder if like we'll ever see like PlayStation games kind of be like that.
We'll see. What else happened at the Xbox showcase?
The new Black Ops game got announced.
You know what? I was actually wondering if you were going to say literally anything else, because I was going to be like, what even is this new Call of Duty game? Like, what even is... I don't think I know what Call of Duty is anymore, to be honest with you. I don't think I know what it is. I don't remember when Jon Snow was in Call of Duty. I was checked out of Call of Duty even then. Like, the last Call of Duty I played was the original Modern Warfare, right? Or like World at War. Like, what is happening? What was that? I hate to say that it looked cool, and then like I just decided not to do it because of the branding of Call of Duty. Like that sounds so bad, but it's 100% where I'm
literally,
at.
Well, and the problem is that's literally what pretty much everybody that like watches that trailer probably ends up at is like, oh, it's Call of Duty. You know? I mean, like, yeah. But like that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad game. Allegedly, the last Black Ops campaign was actually pretty good. I didn't play it because it's Call of Duty. This one has co-op. Like, I mean, like, I don't know.
I really enjoyed Call of Duty when I was younger, right? Like, not even to make it sound like when I was, but like, when you're talking about single-player, first-person shooter campaign experiences, right? Like, that was much bigger in, like, the early 2000s, right? And then even, like, the ability to have co-op with, like, Halo and stuff. But that, like, it wasn't just online multiplayer, right? It was... oh, we did, we had, you would do the campaign. The expectation was to do the campaign. I really liked Call of Duty back then. Like, some of the stories were super interesting. I mean, the original Modern Warfare was a big deal. One of the main characters actually died.
Right. Yeah.
And it was so shocking that you died, right? But I don't know. I started getting out of games. Like, I think the shift started being more into online play, right? Like, oh, it's not about the campaign or co-op. It's all about like the online play. And so now I don't even really think about that with games, except for Halo. I mean, obviously, I loved playing the Halo campaign and got really into it. But when I think of other shooter games, I mean, most of them don't even have a campaign.
I also think though that part of it too is like connotation and perception, where Call of Duty is always in our minds. It's Call of Duty, right? It's the shooter that comes out every year that's like super big, that like essentially like biggest game in the world or whatever, but like certain people only play that game. And so like we've got kind of like a certain perception of it, you know? Especially with like we see like clips of Warzone or whatever, or like the multiplayer being, you know, Call of Duty multiplayer, you know. And even though it's definitely changed some, like there's certain elements of it that have remained pretty consistent throughout. It's
Is
just I
it
don't know,
Call of
like
Duty? Is it a Call of Duty game mode where you're hiding and you're like you're a different item and people go around and they try and shoot you? You know what I'm talking about? I've seen clips of this on like
oh, I think that was originally a
YouTube.
Gary's Mod thing, and they might have. I know they ported it over to like a bunch of things.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that seems fun to me. You know,
I don't know, like that campaign story actually got me. I'm kind of really interested now, and especially with it being on Game Pass, like I don't really have a reason not to at least try it out or whatever.
yes, you do.
There,
I can give you one reason to not try it. I can give you one reason to not try it.
What's that?
What happened to your principles, D?
um, there was a guy who came up during the Summer Game Fest opening night for Splitgate 2, and he was absolutely like, oh, like me and my friends in our dorm room, we wanted like to do one thing, and I was make a good FPS or whatever, and like we're tired of the same Call of Duty coming out every year, and
men think about only
Titanfall
one
3.
thing:
Yeah,
how to make a good FPS.
I mean, yeah, and he was wearing a "Make FPS Great Again" hat. And like just coming off like super kind of like gamer bro, but like also like anti Call of Duty, you know? And it's like, okay, all right. Like I mean, like if you think every Call of Duty is the same, like you probably haven't played some of the more recent ones. But then again, neither have I. So I mean, like, what do I know?
Yeah, right. Same, honestly.
Just, yeah.
Same. I haven't played a Call of Duty because I have the same bias and feeling toward it, 100%.
Right.
But also,
yeah.
like, there's just a lot of shooting games out there. You know what I mean? I haven't played I haven't played Medal of Honor in a long time either. They even made like a newer one. I mean, newer, probably like 10 years ago or something. I haven't played that either. You know what I mean? Like, I just am not so okay. Other than Halo Infinite, what's the last first-person shooter campaign you played? For you, this is easy because you play lots of games.
Oh man, the last one that I played, like actual like shooter, like gun shooter.
Yeah,
or
shooter.
like
It's a first-person shooter, right? Like that's what it is.
I mean, I played Immortals of Avium, but that was magic, technically, not actually guns.
Okay.
The last one I can think of that really made an impact on me was Deathloop.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking you would say. Because for me, really, it was Titanfall 2.
Oh, sure. Actually, I did play that more recently, I guess, when it comes down to it. So, yeah.
Which had a great campaign.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. And they went wow, incredible. But, like, I don't know. I don't find games are like that anymore, if that makes sense. Like, that's not what shooter games anyway, right? Like, they just go direct into multiplayer. They usually don't even have a campaign nowadays. I mean, Titanfall 1 didn't.
I would say, like, if this didn't have the Call of Duty branding, would you feel different about it? Would you be more tempted to, like, play it if it didn't have Call of Duty attached to it?
I think...
Because I would say,
you get into a funny thing that gamers get into.
I would be like, this is a really interesting story. This is, like, sci-fi or whatever. I would at least try it, you know? But, yeah.
this gets into a really interesting thing that gamers get into, where I think I still wouldn't play it, but I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm not going to play it.
Sure.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
It still
No,
piqued my
that makes sense.
interest.
Yeah.
Kind of interested, it may be, but like I don't think it's enough to that I would have actually like gone through and like bought or Game Pass downloaded the game and actually tried it.
Right. Well, like kind of interested just isn't enough anymore. With how many games
Right.
come out and everything, it's just like
You want to know how terrible it is that I really want to play that Claire Obscure game, and I just don't have the time. When am I going to do it? Right?
oh,
Like
I can't wait for you to play it though. It's so good. It's so good.
yeah, and then like I want to play Octopath Traveler, but I'm only streaming it, and so like for the story missions, so like that, and I stream like maybe once a week. It's brutal, man, brutal.
But like, yeah, like there were a bunch of other games at the Xbox Showcase that like I just don't know if I'll find the time for. Like Outer Worlds 2, I still haven't really given Outer Worlds 1 the time of day. I really should, because I hear like at least like some of the DLC is really good, and like a lot of like the character moments in Outer Worlds is really good too. And the trailer for 2 made it seem like they dramatically improved the gameplay. So maybe they took some lessons from Avowed and such, because Avowed has really good gameplay. But then, like, also there was this Clockwork Revolution game that looked kind of like Deathloop meets like Quantum Break a little bit, and like, oh man, that lower meets BioShock. You know, like I mean, like, oh, it looked really good. But like when that comes out, I mean, like the problem is like we just had like 5 games that were like coming out just like a couple months ago, and I played one of them, and that's Avowed.
Right.
Like it's like, geez, you know? I mean, like, like I mean, it sounds like I'm complaining, and I'm kind of am, but also like, I mean, like we're eating it. Like this is one of the things too. Like one of the complaints about this Xbox Showcase was that like there wasn't a ton of first party presence. First of all, like they had Outer Worlds 2, Grounded 2, Gears of War Reloaded, this Clockwork game. They had DLC for Indiana Jones or whatever, like Sea of Thieves, all the like their normal like live service games. Like there was a time when we wouldn't, as Xbox players, get any of that. You know, like we would get like a Forza game if we were lucky. You know, and that's pretty much it. Like,
and Forza doesn't even count.
So I mean, like, I feel like, you know, like to complain about like the lack of like games from Xbox's first party studios is really silly. When you look at like how things were like a few short years ago, where we just were waiting, you know, and just hoping that like maybe next year or the year after, you know.
That sounds so sad. Maybe next year, guys. There's always next year, guys. That really was where we were at. You are 100% right. Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe next year. We don't even have time to talk about the Switch 2. And this is all I'm going to say about it, is that people seem to be enjoying it.
Yeah. And everyone seems to have one somehow, except me.
Yeah. And me too. Yep. And also people were like, oh my gosh, they're so hard to find. Oh my gosh. And then it's like everyone and their mom has a Switch 2. Except for me. And you know what? I don't think I'm going to buy one. I don't think I'm going to buy one for a little while, because I'm still at that point where I want to see if the third-party developers adopt the Switch 2, you know, going forward. And there's not enough first-party games on it to really get me to, you know, pull the trigger.
Sure.
That's where I'm at.
When Nintendo sends me an engraved invitation, and by that I mean an email, saying like, hey, you're good enough to buy one, that's when I'll probably buy one. That's what I'm waiting for.
Because here's the thing, for me, and I don't know if it's because I live in Japan, the Switch is actually kind of the perfect console for me. When you plug it into the dock, it's got extra power, and I can play on the TV, and then I can just pick it up and go somewhere else and do whatever and still play. That's what I really want and I just don't feel like anything is up to par. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
and I get it, because I mean, is that even possible? You know, I don't know. Is that even possible with like modern games and such? But that's what I want. I want to be able to do that. Or I need to just like let it go, right? Could I buy Clair Obscur on my or is it Clair Obscur Expedition 33? I don't know what people are calling it. Expedition 33,
Yes.
could I buy it on my Steam Deck? Yes, I could, but then everyone's like, "Oh, but if you have the option, you should play it on Xbox because it looks so great." And it's like, here's where I'm at, right? Should I play a game where it looks great, or should I play a game where I'm actually going to play it?
Sure. Yeah. That's always a tough one too. Yeah.
But I say that, but I picked up and I actually paid for Dragon Age Veilguard, and that one, it actually looked and ran bad enough that I stopped playing it. I didn't continue. And I was just like, I would just rather not play it even than play it like this. So there is that threshold too, of like something can be so bad that I don't want to play it at all. But then I don't know, where does it go? You know, as far as that. But on that note, if you have a Switch 2, or you know what? How about this? Craig, it's your last episode. You know, we're going to miss you. If you want to buy DJD's ROG Ally, how much are you selling it for, D?
I would probably sell
600?
for 300.
Oh my gosh, 300. I said $600. If you want to buy his for $500, because I'm not going to let him lowball it that hard. You know what? 600. No, we're sticking with 600. If you want to buy his ROG Ally,
the fact is that if I got $300 for it and then I didn't have a ROG Ally, that would be enough for me to like justify like getting Xbox branded one.
Like if for $600, okay, 300 is going to go to DJD and 300 is going to go to me. For $600, you could own an actual DJD ROG Ally. Okay, it's special. It's not. It's one of a kind. All right. So yeah, just message him. Let him know.
Let me know.
And we will. Yeah, we'll see you guys next week
in season 8. And
season
also,
8.
if you're in LA or in California at all, I guess right now, be safe.
Yeah, be safe. Yeah, I've heard about that even in Japan, and people have asked me about it, and I'm just like, man, America's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a word for it. That's a word for it.
Bye. Get out of here, Craig.